Hello, I am Nicole from the Singapore Art Museum, and I'm pleased to welcome you to the second session of the Cross-Cultural Art Dose series. Today's session is called Give and Take. This program is part of Sam's exhibition, The Gift, which is currently showing at the National Gallery, Singapore. Today's program is brought to you by the Art Gallery of New South Wales, Australia, the Black Dog Institute, Australia, and the Singapore Art Museum. Today, I'm very pleased to introduce to you our three speakers. We have Danielle Gullotta from the Art Gallery of New South Wales, Professor Katherine Boydell from the Black Dog Institute, and Dr. Lim Chye Hong from the Singapore Art Museum. They will be leading us on this online art and wellness experience. Without further ado, I shall now hand the time over to our speakers. Chye Hong, please.
Thank you for taking the time to join us on this journey. This series is crafted for audiences near and far, both local and global. While COVID-19 presented challenges, it also presented the opportunity for us to meet you on the digital platform, which may and may not be viable once upon a time. We are very delighted to transcend geographical and physical boundaries to celebrate cultural diversity, and hope that you would enjoy what we have prepared for you today. Before we start the program, I would like to explain to audiences in Singapore about the acknowledgement of country. In Australia, an acknowledgement of country is an opportunity for one to show respect for the traditional owners and the continuing connection of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders to country. Country in this context is more than just ownership or connection to land. Amongst other things, it relates to values, places, resources, stories, and cultural obligation associated with the area and its feature. Without further ado, may I invite my co-presenter, Danielle from the Art Gallery of New South Wales, to present an acknowledgement of country on our behalf, and thereafter to start part 2 of the Cross-Cultural Art Dose series, featuring on the theme of Give and Take. Danielle, please.
Thank you, Chye. I begin today by acknowledging the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians on the land on which the Art Gallery of New South Wales stands and holds its collection, and from where Katherine and myself connect in today. I pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples connecting today with the program. In this cross-cultural art dose experience, we create an opportunity for us all to take time out, to be present, to focus on a selection of artworks to allow us to be curious, imagine, and connect with our own thoughts and feelings while sharing with others. We invite you to suspend judgment and allow yourself time and space to observe and process the artworks being presented through these slow-looking techniques and reflections. I invite Katherine now to share a few words on our collaboration.
Thank you very much, Danielle, and hello everyone. Happy Saturday to you all. I'd also like to extend a warm welcome and thank you for joining our second session of Cross-Culture Art Dose. I'm Katherine Boydell. I'm a professor of mental health at the Black Dog Institute here in Australia, in Sydney. And my program of research focuses on using the arts in the research process to create or produce research data and to communicate or share our research findings using visual, performative, and literary genres. Cross-Culture Dose is based on an Arts on Prescription program that Danielle and I have been collaborating on. And our research exploring the impact of arts on prescription showed significant increases in mental health and well-being and in a sense of community inclusion and connectedness. And based on these positive findings, we decided to extend the arts engagement to the broader public and in collaboration with our Singapore colleagues to offer it virtually to reach more broadly people around the globe. I'd also like to acknowledge that October is Mental Health Month and to re-emphasize the importance of the arts and its impact, not only on mental health, but on our physical health as well. Research evidence shows, and there's quite a great deal of it, and it's increasing on a weekly basis in terms of showing that the arts, broadly defined, can reduce anxiety and depression, can enhance feelings of belonging and connectedness, and can promote empathy. So I'm going to be moderating the discussion this afternoon. Please ensure that your video and microphone are off during the session, and you'll be invited to share your responses in the Q&A box. And I'll try my best to get to all of them, but if I don't, please don't be offended. All of your comments are really important to us, and we will have a record of them. We also suggest you might want to have a pencil, pen, or other materials present during the session in case you'd like to draw a doodle and engage in any other creative activity during the session. So to prepare you for the deep engagement and the slow looking, I want to engage you in a very brief meditative exercise. So if you could begin by bringing your attention into your body. You can close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. You can notice your body seated wherever you're seated, feeling the weight of your body on the chair or on the floor. Take a few deep breaths. And as you take a deep breath, bring in more oxygen, enlivening the body. And as you exhale, have a sense of relaxing more deeply. You can notice your feet on the floor, notice the sensations of your feet touching the floor, the weight and pressure, vibration, heat. You can notice your legs against the chair, pressure, pulsing, heaviness, lightness. Notice your back against the chair. Bring your attention into your stomach area. If your stomach is tense or tight, let it soften. Take a breath. Notice your hands. Are your hands tense or tight? See if you can allow them to soften. Notice your arms. Feel any sensation in your arms. Let your shoulders be soft. Notice your neck and throat. Let them be soft. Relax. Soften your jaw. Let your face and facial muscles be soft. Then notice your whole body present. Take another breath. Be aware of your entire body as best you can. Take a breath. And then, when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you.
Thank you, Katherine. Today we're exploring the theme of give and take. The gesture of giving expresses a relationship and an exchange. The tension between give and take invites us to consider what is being shared and how do we receive or respond. The selection of artworks we've chosen for this session invites us to observe closely, reflect on our senses, and to become aware of the visual explorations an artist gives form to, and to consider how we respond to take and create our own personal meaning. We're going to transition to our first artwork for the session today. And I'll just in this moment ask you to be aware of your body being present and your breath as you view this work and take it in. We invite you to take just a few moments to survey the artwork without judgment, and to allow your eyes to take in the bright, bold colours. You may notice the dominance of the intense red. And you might be struck by that bold emerald green. The dominance of the complementary colours give vibrance to this work. What forms do you notice? What has struck you when you viewed this work? You may notice that on the green table, that deep emerald green, an arrangement of objects that are tall, that draw our eye up the composition. And then the casual arrangement of fruit draw our eye across horizontally. What elements on the table speak to you first? What do you identify with? Is it the tall 1950s coffee pot? The ornate flask with two handles? Perhaps a wine bottle just to the distance. There's a connection and a relationship between these objects. To the left, there's a smaller still life. You'll notice its vertical axis. The elegant navy blue vase with that arrangement that brings energy and the organic to this work. I want you to imagine that you're within this composition. Are you indoors? Or perhaps are you outdoors? You may be struck by those three winged, perhaps they're birds, that are interacting and intersecting in the composition, breaking the silence and the stillness. I was wondering if anyone would like to share what they're imagining if they were present here. Perhaps who they've shared this experience with. What have they experienced?
We have an indication from the audience, Danielle, that this takes place outdoors, and someone has drawn attention to the green table. We have a comment. At first I thought they looked like birds, but I realized they also look like those winged seeds that fly around as well. It's quite a fanciful piece. Fanciful is the word that comes to mind.
Mm. We're looking at a still life. However, it's full of movement and colour and dynamic action. I do like the comment that it is perhaps outdoors. When we think of the theme of give and take, this work reminds me of the Australian custom of bringing a plate when you attend a communal function. So I wonder if you were intending to participate in this experience, in this shared connection with other people, perhaps what would you bring?
In the Asian context, bringing a plate to share is a very, very big thing as well.
We have a comment. I feel like I'm at a soiree. I'd bring a bottle of wine.
That would definitely connect with the vibrance of colour and energy in this work. I'd like to also draw our attention to the arrangement of flowers. It's quite casual and vertical. And there's that sort of movement within this stillness. I'm also wondering whether the flowers are an acknowledgement or a gift of gratitude. They've been presented here and placed offside for us to have a closer awareness of. Perhaps this has been a celebration. And I wonder if this brings back any memories for people, perhaps celebrating with family or friends a particular milestone in their life.
We have a few comments, Danielle. We've got, looks like a scene after an event, the bottles and food left after. Someone else says that this piece reminds them of Matisse. And we have a comment about the red being so vibrant, something out of a Chinese New Year or wedding celebration, which is kind of interesting because I'm reflecting on the red and green being here in Australia with the red and green prominence of the Rabbitohs games. So it's just, I'm kind of reflecting on that, all of that red and green.
And for the Chinese, the red is very much a Chinese New Year color in that sense that that vibrancy of red is very prominent during the Lunar New Year for the Chinese.
And I'm imagining with all those comments that people have shared, that this work is really about a connection and interaction of people, the relationships, the give and take, whether it's the give and take of sharing of food or conversation, or even of just sharing of your time.
I think it's particularly relevant now with the fact that we're able to have a picnic outside with up to 5 adults and the importance of connection, of human connection. I think that's quite relevant in these current times.
Definitely, definitely. And the fact that the artist here has, again, created an image, a composition of this past experience or experience that is happening. But it's not in a photorealistic style. It's very much to capture the mood, the energy. And I think having those agile birds or seeds, if you see seeds, intersecting in this gives that sense of air and movement. And at this point, I want to ensure that people are taking note of their own breathing, taking in that air. Imagine biting into one of those pears, perhaps getting a sense of the smell of the flowers, or perhaps the smell of the freshly brewed coffee that's going to imbue people with more energy and zing to keep going. This work is definitely a visual delight. The range of, again, greens and red are just not limited. There's flecks of yellow and orange through the work as well, that again imbues our eyes with energy to flitter across the surface. We'll reveal here the context of the work.
A Green Table and Swallow is an oil painting by Erwin Lind. This work is about 61 by 92 centimeter. This is a tad bigger than an A1 size paper or 8 pieces of A4 paper pieced together. The work is strong and fresh with an intense red background. This is a still life that is anything but still, attested by the speed of the flying swallows. Incidentally, we did some research and have concluded that this may be the welcome swallow that is native to Australia and characterized by their long forked tails and the swooping swallow, the flying speed and all that kind of point to it that it probably would be, and for those of you who are keen bird watcher, maybe you'd like to find out a little bit more and see if our revelation of it being the welcome swallow is correct. And some interesting facts for our audience in Australia. Lynn was the first full-time curator of the Power Collection at the University of Sydney, now the Museum of Contemporary Art. And during his stint, he made a major change to the collecting policy to acquire works by Australian artists such as Arthur Boyce and Sidney Noland. He has also built up an international collection now within the Sydney Museum of Contemporary Art. And I'd like to share with you a little bit about the genre of this work. This is a painting, an oil painting. In art, the term painting describes both the act of painting and the result of the action. The former is the practice of applying paint or other medium on the surface, usually with a brush. The latter is the result of the act, the painting as an object. Perhaps you'd like to have a quick look or a slow look before we go to the next work.
We have a last comment with respect to this painting. The painting makes me think of life-affirming things.
That's a beautiful comment, definitely. Our journey today takes a very different turn with this work. Again, we invite you to take a few moments to survey the work. Allow yourself time to notice the wooden background. You may see the different textures and grains in the wood. You may even notice some small pinpricks or nail holes in the piece of wood that supports the arrangement. You may be curious and wondering, what are you looking at? You may notice the different sizes of triangles. That have been moved around, arranged. You'll notice that some triangles form squares or rectangles. I wonder if anyone would like to share what is their first impressions of what they're viewing.
It looks like an artwork with letters and newspaper used for chatterbox as memories.
Oh yes, those childhood games where you would fold the paper, the newsprint, and you get sometimes illegible arrangement of words. Yes, I can definitely see that here.
We have another audience member who's likened it to origami.
That's a wonderful comment, and we'll definitely fill our bag of descriptive words, definitely. It is very much about form and shapes and taking time to meditate and reflect.
Another comment, this makes me try to recall all the geometry terms, parallelogram, rhombus, etc. Take away a shape and it becomes a triangle. Someone else, Picasso.
Yes, definitely. This definitely relates to collage. Instead of collaging paper and tickets and cardboard and newsprint, we're looking here at reclaimed materials, found objects, items that people have discarded and in a way become a gift. They're free. The artist has scavenged and found, and he repurposed. It's a very considered work. I want you to imagine that you're able to perhaps touch those pieces or even move them. What do you think each piece would feel like? What would be the texture on your fingers? Would you hold your breath if you were going to pick one out from the center? And hope not to bump any out of form. Or are you bold and ambitious? And would you take your hand and cast them all aside and start from scratch? I often look at this work and I see a body moving.
It's interesting how our mind would make us think about things, like trying to conceptualize something that is abstract and turn it to something that we know. So it looks a little bit like a dog, but it also looks like someone having a conversation with someone else.
Exactly. There's so many things that we may see or associate with a piece like this that is totally abstract, taken again from the world around us, recontextualized into something pure almost. I draw your attention to the text. Almost as if the artist has cut out newsprint and rearranged. But these are definitely some sort of packaging, some sort of box that's had a long history. It embodied the past. And here the artist has created a fresh interpretation with a sense of movement and harmony.
We have a comment, Danielle, that the wood pieces are smooth, and someone is recognizing able in the text, A-B-L-E.
Oh yes, I can see that
throughout the text. Yeah. Able, the wood reoccurring.
So again, that's a very positive word of moving forward and of possibility. an interesting soundscape to accompany this work. If you're going to title this work, if you're going to give it a title, how would you approach it? Would you take a title that is more poetic or more grounded in the physical nature of the work?
Grounded, walking triangle man.
Hmm. This is so different to our first work that was filled with bright colours. Here we have very subdued tones and colours, and the artist has really shown us a sustainable approach to creating art out of the materials around us. So again, here there's definitely a give and take.
Got a comment, it looks fragmented, but from these fragments, a form is realized.
That's a beautiful comment. Just going to see if we can get to the next slide to reveal.
We've got another title, Angles of Life. Or Angel of Life, sorry.
This is the work by Rosalie Gascoigne. Like the other work, it's quite similar in size, just a tad smaller. So it is about 78 by 60 centimeter. And like the other work, it's a little bit smaller than 8 pieces of A4 paper pieced together. Gascoigne is best known for her distinctive and poetic assemblages of mostly found materials, both natural and manufactured, and sourced from her collecting forays. Her lifelong passion for collecting and arranging developed initially from the Sogetsu school of Ikebana. That's a cross-cultural element here, and with its emphasis on form and line. Her choice of material, whether manufactured or natural, always carried the imprint of their time in the land. She once described her exposure to the Australian environment as all air, all light, all space, and all understatement, which was crucial to the development of her sculptural practice. Gascoigne has no formal art training, often asserting that her 50 years of apprenticeship was in looking, and her work radically reformed the way in which the Australian landscape is perceived. I like to also take this opportunity to zoom into the term assemblage. Assemblage is the art that is made by assembling the disparate elements, often from everyday objects, scavenged or acquired by the artist. Perhaps we can have a close look at the work before we go to the next work.
We're going to transition to our third work, which again takes us in a very different direction again. Again, we invite you to take a few moments to cast your eyes on this photograph. Our focus is on the sculptural pieces here that form one work. You may be struck by their surface quality and geometric forms again. Instead of sharp points of wood, as in the past work by Rosalie Gascoigne, we have curved, circular, smooth and very precise sculptural pieces. I want you to imagine that you're stepping foot on this wooden floor in the Singapore Art Museum. Perhaps it's just before closing time. And you've taken off your shoes. And you're stepping on that warm wooden floor, mindfully walking through the sculptures, being aware of your steps, being present, and aware of your breathing. You'll be struck at the fact that you feel so tall as you look down at these sculptures that are resting very gently on the floor. You will notice where the light reflects from the surface and how these forms cast a shadow. You may be curious to imagine and think, what are these forms? How were they created? And what are they in honor of? You bend down and you may even see a slight reflection of yourself. These works have been created out of aluminium. And you'll notice the surfaces have been burnished. They've been handled and moved and polished. To fulfill a certain vision of the artist. There's a sense of balance in these works, the beauty in the simplicity of form.
There's something almost otherworldly about these, spaceship-ish.
Definitely. I really like that comment. Perhaps if we look at the form of the works, the circular mass, the sphere, and this almost tail-like structure may be something that we see in the sky above us at certain times.
There's also a comment noting such a contrast between the natural material of the wood floor and the man-made metal.
Definitely, there's a tension there, isn't there?
They look like comets. We have a comment. Someone else, I imagine them zooming around, having a little race at night when the museum has closed. Someone else has said, very precise and deliberate execution of casting, attention to detail. They remind me of a duck's head and bills. And then we have someone else who sees 2 eyes and a nose.
They're great comments to share. And I love that idea of that movement. Definitely they're still and they're sculptures, but there's that sense of movement here. And perhaps these forms don't exist on the floor. Maybe that's the paradox. Maybe they live somewhere else. And just drawing your attention again to the medium of aluminium, which has allowed this sort of precision of form. Aluminium is such a lightweight and versatile medium. That
We
the
have another
artist,
sorry, Danielle, we just have another comment come in. I see bowling balls or planets in orbit.
it's wonderful to hear these responses that we're taking from these works. The artist has offered us these forms, and in this particular experience, we hold back on the details of the work to allow you to process in a timely manner. And it's interesting how just by looking and through that silence, the artist can really speak to us in these forms.
It's quite interesting as well that while the artist gift, and then we reciprocate, but in interpreting the work, we give back as well, and that continues that conversation.
Exactly.
I feel like they are a community, says someone else. Yeah.
That's a really important point. There's that connection here. There's an interaction between these 3 works, isn't there, that we're picking up on. We might reveal the artist and the artist's materials.
The artist for Space Eggs is Anthony Lau. This work features 3 space eggs made of aluminium, each about 23 by 53 by 25 cm. The size of each space egg is like a soccer ball, which is about 22 to 23 centimeter in diameter. So you get a sense of the scale of the work itself. Incidentally, Lau is generally regarded as a pioneer of modern sculpture in Malaysia, and more widely known for sculptures with themes of nature and elements. Lau's space eggs reflect the excitement and possibility of human exploration and new frontiers that was celebrated following the achievement of the first moonwalk in 1969 by the American astronaut Neil Armstrong and Edwin Aldrin. This work was actually made in 1970. So you get a sense of the excitement. And incidentally, Lau was actually in America following a Fulbright scholarship. And I think he could be very, very interested in the celebratory and how he reciprocated from the excitement of the first moonwalk. Here what we have is a sculpture, and a sculpture is actually a form of 3-dimensional art made by one of the 4 basic processes: carving, modeling, casting, or constructing. So Space Eggs in this context is made using the process of casting, which one of our viewers have actually shared earlier. But what is casting? Technically speaking, casting involves 3 basic steps. Number 1, modeling the form, normally in clay or wax. Second, creating a mold from the form. And thirdly, by pouring a liquid material, and in this case, molten aluminum into the mold. And then that mold can be cast more than once allowing artists to create addition of the artwork. Have a close look at Anthony Lau before I turn over to Danielle for a summation of what we have experienced today.
So today we've been on a journey exploring the theme of give and take. And we started off with a shared table, an oil painting that was dynamic and vibrant. We imagined the sounds and the smell of sharing and being together. And then we moved to an assemblage of reclaimed materials, of recycling, of recontextualizing objects in our everyday world and giving form and meaning to something so refined and contemplative. And in the third work today, we looked at the possibilities of travel beyond our realm. We looked at the materiality of sculpture and celebrated the fact that we could imagine walking through the gallery and having a close relationship with these sculptural pieces. Three incredibly different works that relate to the idea of gifting and the tension between an artist creating work and the interpretation that we unpack. We hope today that the works resonated with you. And of course, there may be one work that speaks to you a little bit more intently. So we value your responses, and we would like to invite you to participate in a poll and share with us which work today resonated with you most. It could be A Green Table and Swallows from 1955. It could be The Gazette from 1994. Or perhaps Space Eggs from 1970.
It's interesting looking at how people are thinking about which one resonate best with them. I think there are some that are thinking that, oh, it could be this or that. And so I think as the poll is changing, it's actually quite interesting.
Yes, and I can imagine that if we did this program on another day, your response could be different as well, depending how you're feeling today. The fact that through viewing these works, you're aware of your breath and your body. On another day, you might feel different and respond differently as well.
We have some comments that actually are underlying the reasoning for selection. So someone has selected Gazette because it reminds them of how their consciousness is formed through different experiences. And then we have an audience member that says, I liked the Space Eggs. It embodies precision and imagination. So it's nice to see the rationale behind selection of those works that resonated most.
Definitely. We can see here that I think everyone can see the polling results, I hope. So we can see about 50% of people really connected with the vibrancy of the painting and almost equally, the Gazette slightly ahead of SpaceX. But again, the imagination that all these artists have shared with us is really what we're celebrating here. The fact that art can take us beyond our physical body to imagine is so important, especially in these times, to have a reprieve from the everyday.
I was wondering if the painting, because of the warmness of the color, have an uplifting effect over the coolness of aluminium. And that's why the choice in selecting Erwin Slint's A Green Table with Swallow. And you can imagine also with the still life, the sound of the birds, with the coolness, with the breeze and all that. It's very sensorial.
Mm. Mm. Well, we've got another element for our audience to feed into as well. So we might go to the next slide if I... Yeah. And again, we really value your input into the program today. And what we'd invite you to do is to either use the QR code on your phone, or you're able to type into the slido.com using that number hashtag. And we'd ask you if you could perhaps describe the impact of the session today and how perhaps you were feeling. And perhaps as we do this, be mindful of your body, the way you're seated, and taking in that breath and breathing out. And as we know with these Slido interactions, the words that are repeated will become larger. And we get a sense of this communal experience and what people have felt.
And we have some comments coming in as well. Intrigued, calm. We have a comment about the artworks. Someone saying they're all interesting, very different, hard to choose, great choices.
Well, we hope that this experience, or perhaps how you're feeling now, will stay with you for some time this afternoon. So you might be encouraged to share an experience with someone. Perhaps consider what you could offer or give. It could be even your time to extend this experience today.
Thank you for sharing with us the work that resonated with you most today, and for taking the time to reflect on how the session has made you feel. As an extension of the program, we would like you to take the opportunity to invite you to create a response to the artworks or the themes we have explored in this series. For example, you might like to take a photograph of time spent with families and friends, sharing meals or gifting. Well, you might like to take out a sketchbook, take a piece of paper, do some collage, a painting, or even a piece of writing that explore the theme of give and take. And we would love to see what you have created. And please share your responses on our social media by using the hashtag cross-cultural art dose at Art Gallery New South Wales, at Black Dog Institute, at Singapore Art Museum. And we are really looking forward to contribution so that we could also have a sense of how the response is in a different sort of way. If you enjoyed the talk today, please join us for the next session on 9 October at 11 AM Singapore time and 2 PM Australian Eastern Daylight Saving Time for the theme of embodiment. We are embodied beings. Our thoughts, movement, and body make visible all of who we are, our mood, our personality, history, etc. Viewing the body as an embodiment of memories help us to become more aware of our ability to feel our experiences. By becoming more attuned to bodily sensation, we develop our ability to be more aware of how we are feeling. We look forward to making that connection between body and mind with you next week. We now turn over to Nicole for the final words.
Thank you so much, Danielle, Katherine, and Chye Hong for this wonderful experience. I feel so relaxed today. I really enjoyed it, and I hope everyone has found this session equally relaxing and that you had a chance to reflect on acts of giving and taking in your own life. Thank you to everyone for attending and sending in your comments and insights too. It was great to hear what you had to say on a different theme today. We would love to know your thoughts on the program today. We hope you can take a moment to scan the QR code displayed on your screen now to access the feedback form. Your responses are very important to our design of this program. And as I said before, we really do read your comments. So we hope that you'll fill it up, even if you had already done so last week. SAM has a range of other programs as part of this exhibition, The Gift, which is currently on view at the National Gallery, Singapore. The Cross-Cultural Art Dose series has one more session on the 9th of October. Please visit SAM's website for more information. Once again, thank you to our wonderful speakers and a big thank you to our audience for spending your Saturday with us. We hope to see you next week. Bye-bye.